So I grew up in Carlisle, which is in the north of England. No culture, no diversity, very sort of insular, and I just really desperately wanted to come and live in London and be a bit more of be a bit more invisible in a way, just kind of be able to be as big as I wanted to be, but without attracting too much attention and things. I became a designer after university, and for most of my career I've been a designer. So I've worked in fashion for a long time, designing textile print, and also I did web design, graphics, kind of you name it, I've designed it over the years. And so art has been quite a late thing for me. It's something that I really always wanted to do, but was sort of afraid, because when you come from somewhere like Carlisle, it's almost like being in a feature film in Hollywood, having an art career. It just seems untouchable. It seems like it's too out of reach. And then it's taken me a long time to change my mindset to believe that actually I can do this and I can have a career as an artist. So at 50 years of age, I've had a complete life change, and it's quite cliche, isn't it? And become an artist. So I'm not sure how my background influences my art, but it definitely influences how I see the world. I'm super grateful for everything, and I grew up on the edge of the Lake District, so nature and beauty and hilltops and lakes and things were my school holidays, camping. So being out in the outdoors was where I felt free and where I felt really at ease. And moving to London is interesting because I get the same buzz when I'm in like the thick of it in London as I got when I was the only person on a hilltop in the Lake District. So that's quite interesting to me, and sort of marrying up those two things of real kind of urban. I mean, I'm in the depths of East London here, and it's so gritty and urban, and such a contrast to what I grew up with. So bringing those two things together in my work I find quite interesting. So I use a lot of spray paint, and I think that's very much about the fact that I've been in London now for actually longer than I was up north. I've been here for 20-30 years, and I'm always quite drawn to street art, and I don't practice it. I don't pretend I'm a street artist at all, but I do get very influenced by the colours and the spray and that kind of haphazardness of the random street art that you see, where just a bit of random graffiti. So that comes into my work, but then I think the energy of my work is something more around the energy I feel in nature. If that makes sense? Hope it does. So my biggest influences probably aren't artists. Really, really influenced by psychologists, and I listen to a lot of podcasts and things about how the brain works, how we can make ourselves happier by changing our thoughts, and how our surroundings completely impact our subconscious. So what I'm interested in is changing people's surroundings to positively affect their subconscious. So I want people to look at my art and feel uplifted and elated and inspired, and like anything is possible. So I would never create art that was depressing or that made people feel lonely, and I think there is a lot of art that does have that effect. But I think because I read so much about psychology, I'd say that is the biggest influence on my work. Okay, so right now I'm focusing on a new series, which there's one piece here, there's another piece here, and this piece here. And I think these pieces, the colour and the energy of these has been inspired by a recent trip to Iceland, where there was a volcano about to erupt, like literally erupted the day we got back. So there was that kind of underlying will it, won't it happen, and the light, it's almost incredible. It's like sunrise and sunset, a 3-hour sunrise and a 3-hour sunset with a little gap in the middle, where this kind of orange and pink hue just casts over everything, and the rocks become glowing, and it was just such an amazing place to be. And so I think coming back, I've carried a lot of that with me, and that's what I think is coming through in these recent pieces. So the biggest challenge of being an artist is always putting yourself out there in marketing, I think. It's very, very easy to come into the studio and kind of hunker down and create work, endless amounts of work. But if you don't put it out there and you don't show your face and you don't give it to the world, then there's kind of no point in doing it to some extent. But it is quite a tricky thing to do, and I think it's quite hard to put yourself out there, and it's quite vulnerable as well. But yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge is being vulnerable like that. Okay, so what advice would I give my younger self? My younger self, my very, very young self, was desperate to be an artist. There was nothing else I wanted to do. I was so, that was me. And I let teachers, parents, various adults, well-meaning adults, talk me out of it. Because I was you're bright, Kate, you can do anything, you're good at maths, you're good at science, get a sensible job, do something proper, art's a hobby, art's not a serious job, you'll never make any money, you'll always be poor. And I listened to all of that, and I let it influence me, and I compromised and became a designer. And I would say to my younger self, don't listen to any of that shit and go for it. And I'd say that to anybody. If you've got a dream and you know what you love, just do it. Don't let anybody talk you out of it. Because at one point you are going to actually do it, but it just can take you a lot longer to get there if you let all of those blocks come in the way. In terms of have I tried any unconventional mediums and techniques, I think I do that all the time. I'm constantly looking at different ways of applying the paint or moving it around the canvas, and with my spray paint I don't necessarily use the can the way I'm supposed to, and I often don't use brushes. I use things like lollipop sticks, and I've got a wallpaper paste brush and a squeegee that's supposed to be for screen printing, but I don't use it for that. I use it for moving paint around. And so I think that's when interesting things happen, when you actually don't follow the rules, you break the rules a bit and you do things the wrong way. So I won't wait for something to dry, and I'll spray something on top and then I'll move it around, and that's where the interesting techniques and things come out, and that I think that's where you find your signature style, is when you start to do things that nobody else is doing. So this is a really interesting question. Do I use music or background noise? Because I'm so influenced by what I'm listening to. I can't work in silence. The music that you might be able to hear now isn't actually mine, it's from the studio next door. But I create from what I'm listening to. So a lot of the time the energy of the piece reflects the energy of the music I'm listening to. Or quite often I listen to a very inspiring talk by somebody. So the piece that's on the wall here, which is slightly in the dark, I was listening to an interview with Davina McCall, where she talks about speaking her truth and how her life basically changed when she was able to speak her truth and show her full colours and her vibrancy and everything else. And so whilst I was painting that, I really felt the emotion, her emotion, to the point where at some points I was crying. But that was, the painting becomes automatic when I'm listening to something, and I get very deeply attached to what I'm listening to, and then I kind of paint quite intuitively and automatically in that state. So yeah, super important. And all my best work comes when I'm listening to something that I'm really emotionally connected to. Okay, this is an easy question. So the best reaction someone's had to my artwork, and I've had this reaction a couple of times now, when I've done commissions for people and I've shown them the work and they've cried. And it's often been on Zoom. I've shown them the piece on Zoom and they've just burst into tears, and they've just tears of joy, hopefully. But I think when you can move somebody to that extent with the work, you know, with your art, then that's a massive success, and I can't ask for anything more than that. So what I hope people will take away from my artwork is a sense of optimism and inspiration. So I really hope that whoever takes my art home, they can look at it every day and feel inspired and uplifted, and you know, maybe they can connect to my story and, you know that it doesn't matter when it happens, you can always do what you love, you can always become who you want to be, and we're the only people that stop ourselves from doing that. You know, if you believe in something enough and you believe in yourself enough, it's completely possible to make anything happen. And I do truly believe that, and I do believe that if you can remain grateful and positive for everything, you have the power to manifest amazing things in your life. And so I hope that that's what people get from my art. So I've got some work coming up in a group show in March, which will be in Hackney Wick. I'll put details of that on my website. I've also got, or Instagram probably, I've got another group show in Mayfair in July, and a new collection, my Icelandic collection, will be out very soon, and I'm also developing a new website, so lots and lots of things happening. And yeah, just follow me on Instagram and keep me updated.